Hey guys, my name is Matumio, and now that the Phantom Trainee assignment has been unlocked by the Battlefield community, I wanted to go out and see if I could complete it. I thought that it had some very interesting components to it. I thought that it'd be a fun little challenge. And so if you don't know what the Phantom Trainee assignment is, it's actually quite basic. It requires 200 kills with a pistol, 20 jet kills, and then a bunch of kills in one round with a shotgun. And going into this, I wasn't sure if it was going to be a nightmare. The first one I tried to unlock was the pistols. I figured let's start from the top of the list. I know I'm at least decent at using the pistols in this game. Let's start with there. And so I jumped into a bunch of pistol-only servers, which is one of the great aspects of playing on PC. I don't know if console users have this function yet. I know that consoles are going to eventually get access to renting servers, so maybe that will be an option available here in the near future. I don't know. I don't play on consoles, but at least on PC, there are a bunch of servers that just allow you to run around with pistol only. And this was my time to shine. I love using the MP443. Like, this is my baby, and I don't know if it's just simply because I'm good with it, or people don't understand how to use pistols by themselves, but when I jump into a pistol-only server, I go on some incredible kill streaks. I'm taking people out left and right. I enter a room, there's like a couple of people, I take out a couple, and then I duck behind cover, where normally I would have just gotten mowed down because of automatic weapon, but because most people are using like the Magnum or, you know, semi-automatic pistols, which is what basically all the pistols are, I was able to dodge and avoid all the damage, get behind cover, regenerate my health, and then continue on with my kill streak. And so for the first part of this challenge, I had a lot of fun, but I also forced myself to try out a bunch of different pistol varieties. Like, mainly I just stuck with the MP443, like that's my go-to, but I also tried out the 93R. This weapon used to be like incredibly overpowered back in Battlefield 3. I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was one point where this weapon was so ridiculously powerful that people were actually running around with this as a primary weapon. They wouldn't even use the normal primary. They would switch on over to the secondary, which was the 93R, and because it had a blazing fast rounds per minute, it hit extremely hard, it had a very fast reload time, you would actually see people running around with their secondary weapon, this pistol, and destroying people. And of course, DICE went in, they nerfed it, they realized that it was blatantly overpowered, so they put it more in line with all the other pistols, and I would say that that's pretty much where it is right now in Battlefield 4. It didn't feel overpowered, it didn't feel underpowered, but one of the things that really annoyed me when I was playing on this pistol-only server was running into people that were using the G18. This was also a quote-unquote overpowered weapon back in Battlefield 3 in its prime, and once again, DICE went in and nerfed it, but what annoys me about it isn't the fact that it's overpowered, because it's clearly not in Battlefield 4. I would say it's on par with all the other weapons. What annoys me is when players use this on a pistol-only server. I want to slap these guys right in the face, because at least in my opinion, this goes against the theme and the sport of a pistol-only server. Like, when I go into one of these rounds, I'm assuming people are going to be using a semi-automatic weapon. They're going to be using pistols where they have to click each time to get another bullet down range. And while I wouldn't say that the G18 is overpowered on one of these servers, like I still think it's on par with all the other pistols, at the same time I just feel like people are just completely missing the point when they jump into one of these rounds and use the G18. Maybe I'm making a huge fuss over nothing, maybe you guys will completely disagree with me, or you just think that pistol-only servers are just this dumbest idea to begin with, but for someone who does enjoy jumping into one of these rounds every once in a while and seeing someone use an automatic weapon like this that kind of skirts around the rules, it does get a little on my nerves. But where the challenge got interesting, to say the least, was the requirement to get 20 kills in a jet. I honestly thought that this requirement was going to either make it or break it for me. I thought that this was either going to be a fun experience trying to unlock this assignment, or it was going to be the bane of my existence, and it was simply because of this requirement to get the 20 kills. And admittedly, for the first couple of hours, it was the bane of my existence. I think I got maybe 1 or 2 kills in a 2 hour of playtime, and that's it. Like 2 kills and about 1 million deaths. I basically just fed kills to the enemy pilots because everyone that I was going against felt like they were an ace pilot. It felt like they were up in the sky throughout the entire round. I would check the scoreboard. They were like 50-0. And I was like, there is no way that I'm going to be able to go against these players that have been in the jet since day one, have mastered the mechanics, and know exactly what they're doing. I felt like I had a basic understanding. I felt like I had the basics of getting to the, I think it was like 305 to 315. Like, that's the speed that you wanted to get that maximum turning radius. But even still, with what I thought were the basics, I was just getting obliterated. I wasn't having fun. I wasn't able to get any points. I wasn't unlocking any of the attachments or the customization options for the jets. And I almost got to the point where I was like, screw it. This isn't worth it. I'm not having fun. I'm just giving free points to the enemy. Let's bag it. Let's move on to something that's a little bit more enjoyable. I'm playing a video game. It's supposed to be fun. Just screw this all together. But then after about a day or two, I went back and I was like, know what? Let's try this again. Let's give it a shot. I've always wanted to learn how to play in a jet. And so I jumped in a couple of rounds. And when I jumped into a round where I was going against ace pilots, that was clear that they were going to be up in the sky the entire round and go 50-0, I left it. I was like, I'm not going to bother. I don't care. Hats off to you. You played the game since day one in a jet. You're fantastic. Hats off to you. But eventually, I joined a server where I wasn't getting blown out of the sky instantaneously, and the other jet pilots seemed to be around the same skill level as I, and that's when I finally started to have fun in the jet. I was going around, I was taking out helicopters. Every once in a while, I was taking people out on the ground, and I was actually able to slowly start to learn how to play in this vehicle. I was able to go for moving targets, I was getting in duels with other jets, and I was actually having a lot of fun. The one thing that did get a little annoying, and what I've never really enjoyed about jet combat, is when you get into a dogfight with an enemy pilot, and it devolves into just a massive circle fest, where you're going around in a circle, you're trying to get that optimal turning speed so that you can eventually get behind them, but you're basically just doing loops up in the sky. And for a gameplay experience, it gets dull very quickly. And when all you're doing throughout the entire round is doing loops around in the sky constantly because the jet pilot is just as good as you, or just as bad as you in my case, and trying to get that optimal turn radius but eventually never taking out the enemy, it gets a little boring. And so while I did overall have fun when I eventually jumped into a server that didn't have ace pilots, that was one thing that I realized that I've never really enjoyed about jets. Even back in Battlefield 3, I thought that was an issue, and it was a little disappointing that that is still the case in Battlefield 4. One thing that I was a little surprised to learn, though, was how extremely easy it is to take out a helicopter in one pass when you're in the jet. Like, I assumed you needed to be an amazing jet pilot. I assumed that you needed to line up every single one of your shots to get that one pass to line up and drop that helicopter in one go. But no, I mean, just little old me, who hasn't had a whole lot of time in the jets, was able to do one pass over a helicopter. I was actually in the attack jet, so I assumed that I wasn't going to be all that effective at taking out air vehicles. But no, it's still extremely powerful. That cannon hits just incredibly hard. And so it was honestly a little eye-opening for me. Like, I love playing in the helicopters, and I assumed, because I never stepped into a jet basically, I assumed that it would require a little bit more on part of the jet pilot to line up those shots. But after just a couple of hours, it became very clear, like, no, like, anyone can basically do this as long as they're not being harassed by maybe a Stinger missile or another jet. Like, as long as they're able to get a clear run on you, they're gonna be able to take you out very quickly. And so it was eye-opening in that part, and while I understand that the jets are supposed to be able to take out helicopters, like, they are the scissor to the paper of the helicopter, at the same time, it's like, this just feels a little bit dirty and a little bit too easy. But probably the most satisfying aspect of this entire process was learning how to kill infantry down on the ground with the main cannon, but also assisting and destroying enemy jets that are in a dogfight with your teammate. As I said, I've never really been a fan of the whole circling around and doing the whole tango in a dogfight, but when you have a jet pilot buddy who can assist you, it makes it so much fun to interact with the other jet in the sky, because while they're circling, you shouldn't circle along with them. You should just allow them to do their thing and then go off in the distance, turn around, and then line up and kill them. And when I finally figured that out, which should have been obvious, like I kept circling around like an idiot for a good 5 minutes and realized, no, I should just break away, stop circling around with them, and line up for my shot. And when I finally figured that out and I realized that there's a lot more teamwork going around, that's when things opened up for me, and I started to have a little bit more fun with the dogfights. I still think that the whole circle jerk of going around in a circle is ridiculous, but at the same time, if you have a jet pilot buddy that knows what they're doing and they assist you, it makes for some very interesting combat scenarios. The other thing I had a lot of fun doing and was extremely satisfying was sniping infantry down on the ground. It didn't happen very often, and I don't know if I just got lucky the couple of times that I was able to take out the targets. Maybe they just had some health done to them, maybe I was just lucky with my spray. But when I was able to spray my cannon down on the ground and get a couple of infantry kills in a pass, class, it was very satisfying. Like, I felt like I was a sniper up in the sky driving by. It was cool. Like, it was a very cool aspect of this entire process. And so I would say that those two things, working with my other jet pilot in those dogfights, take out an infantry down on the ground, were probably the most satisfying aspects of this entire process. But overall, I am happy that I took the time to get these jet kills. It allowed me to understand the vehicle a little bit more. And while I would say I am by no means a master, like every single time I go against someone who clearly knows what they're doing, I get absolutely destroyed. So I would say I'm more of an intermediate skill level at this point. It was a nice process to go through. The first couple hours were an absolute nightmare, but eventually I got to the point where I had an understanding of what was going on. I could at least get a couple of kills before I got destroyed by the ace pilots, and so I am glad I went through the process. But that's about it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed the jet gameplay. That is something you probably, actually I know you've never seen on my channel, at least from the release of Battlefield 4, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. But until tomorrow, have a good one, and take it easy.